Stephen Mansfield, New York Times bestselling author and speaker.
Doug Leopold, I'm the creator of Earthworm Jim.
Tweet groups.
I'm Victor Dweck.
Joseph Carter, I'm the Mink Man.
This is Dave Baker from Forged in Fire.
This is Leah Morgan. I'm a comedian, and this is why you should never
Never.
Not ever.
Don't waste your time.
Oh, you really should.
listen to those darling, yummy Reverend and the Reprobate.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Reverend and the Reprobate. I am Lucas Pinkert. I'll be playing the Reverend tonight. Along with me is Danley, the Retrobate, and Tom Leopold's buddy from prison.
Yes.
That's probably just what we should call it.
Yeah, from now on.
Yeah.
My mom is out of prison, and I met Tom Leopold in prison, and we had a special friendship.
So tonight's guest, or today's guest, whenever you're listening to this podcast, is Tom Leopold.
This evening's guest.
Whenever this airs and you put it in your ear holes, that's the time where we're having Tom Leopold on, according to you.
A man who needs no introduction, but we'll go ahead and say a couple of things.
The thing is a guy like Tom does need an introduction because nobody knows how much he is sort of the wizard. He is the man behind the curtain on so many great pieces of culture shaping.
Let's name a
sitcoms.
couple.
National Lampoons, Seinfeld, Cheers, Will and Grace,
Ellen.
The Ellen, the sitcom, not Ellen, the new show that's on.
Yeah.
Not
the Ellen that got canceled. This is the pre.
Actually, that show did get canceled.
Okay. Well, I wasn't meaning
Tom
that
Leopold
term.
gives Danley an education on sitcoms. We talk about his conversion to Catholicism from Judaism. We talk about just the interesting points in his career, his work with Kelsey Grammer and John Goodman in a musical about J. Edgar Hoover that they're still working on getting turned into something. It's an amazing
Writing
interview with
on
a brilliant
Cheers.
guy. Yep.
All of the people that he knows that are all of our heroes.
It's story time.
Comedic heroes. Comedically. Okay.
Comedic legend. And
Because our real hero is Jesus.
And no mention of Victor Dweck. It's one of my favorite episodes for that reason. So if you are watching, hit the like, subscribe, ding the little bell to make sure that you get notifications.
Make sure you like it.
Join our new Facebook group so that you can be part of the conversation. We are updating on some of the guests that we've got coming on. So if we have somebody that you're interested in, we might be able to ask a question that you think they need to be asked.
Yeah.
So check it out.
Without any further ado or further fanfare.
Danley, on our sweet airwaves today,
Sweet Clean,
is a man that I would say needs no introduction, but he does, and the reason why is because he is the man behind names like Jerry Seinfeld, Ted Danson, Kirstie Alley, Ellen DeGeneres, Will and Grace, Cheers, Seinfeld, and numerous other things that we will get into over the course of the interview, not the least of which is the oft-tabled musical J. Edgar. It is the man, the myth, the legend himself. It is Dr. Tom Leopold. How are you, sir?
Well, it's an honorary doctorate.
It is, yeah. We can bestow that upon you.
Yeah.
Can you really?
Oh, yeah.
Can you marry me on the show? Can you marry me?
Yeah, we could. As long as you send me the license to sign, we can marry whatever.
Well, my wife of 35 years might have something to say. I like you. I don't want to marry you, but let's see how the interview goes.
I think that's how my wife feels most days, too. Like, I like you, but I didn't know that I wanted to marry you. That's why I married her.
You,
yeah.
but I don't love you.
That's
in the words of the dude, new things have come to light.
Yes, indeed.
So, John Goodman.
John Goodman, yeah.
So, Tom, you've had an incredible career. Growing up as a kid in Miami, now being one of the legends in entertainment, especially when it comes to comedic writing. What's been not just your secret to longevity, but what has your career path been like?
Wow. When I sometimes I look back, because I started so early that I look back and I think, wow, I'm surprised I'm only this old. I did so many things, I could actually be older and it would make sense. But because what is it? What do I think about it? What was the question?
Yeah,
I got so excited about what I was saying, I forgot.
no, you've had an incredible career. How did you get your start into entertainment? How did that get rolling, and how did you get to where you are now?
Well, that's a big one. But I always wanted to be in show business from the age of 7. I was, I'm rather a cliche of or Harry Shearer. I don't know if you know who Harry Shearer is. He's a great comic. He calls me a semi-precious stone in the crown of comedy.
Semi-precious.
Semi-precious, but it's a crown. I'm in the crown.
Yeah.
And I came to New York at 17 years old. I did amateur theater, and all that. And I really have not had a job outside of show business except for 2 weeks, And I came up to acting school at NYU. You had to audition. I came up right out of high school. You had to audition. Excuse me. It's that shot glass from 1968. Hold on a second. You had to go audition to get into the NYU's acting program, which was new. And I got in somehow. And that's where I met Michael McKean and Christopher Guest. They were 19. I was 17. And that's a big age difference when you're 17 and 19. These guys are already been to college. And, I was so nervous being in New York. I'd never been away from home. I walked with a limp. That's how nervous. I truly did. I walked with a slight limp. I was so nervous to be in New York. But I was thrilled, And then we've been friends since then. We made each other laugh. And in fact, I really didn't know. I was telling somebody this the other day. I really didn't know I was that funny until I met these guys, because I was smart enough to know how funny they were. Mm-hmm. So we were making each other laugh, and I thought, oh, gee, I guess that must have been building up in me somewhere with all the rejection and the love not given. I'm sorry, Reverend. You're like Oprah, man. You make your people cry. I'm okay. I'm back.
All right,
I'm
good.
back. Yeah.
So growing up with Christopher Guest and Michael Shear. Michael, yeah. And when did you meet
I was
Harry
17.
Shearer?
I grew up with. I didn't grow up with any celebrities, But in Miami, where I came from, which was an odd place to come from, but my parents were very showbiz oriented. They just loved show business. That's all they really cared about. Mm-hmm. And I grew up Jewish. In the last few years, I've converted to Catholicism, but that's a whole other mishigas. As we used to say in my old.
Yeah, and I would love
which
for
is
us
something
to,
we want to get into.
Yeah, I'd love to talk
point.
to you a little bit about that later.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, I grew up on a golf course my father couldn't play on because it was restricted. Jews weren't allowed on this golf course.
Wow.
So somebody hit a ball in our yard. My dad would go, "Look, Gentile, here they come." Give it back to him. But I auditioned. I went right from high school to New York City and NYU, which really wasn't like going to university. It was just like going to an acting school. We had like juggling and improv. Olympia Dukakis was one of our teachers. And
wow.
But the three of us were always getting in trouble because, people would, every other day somebody would say, "Don't you guys take anything seriously, man?" They'd be very hostile to us.
You growing up in Miami, parents loved show business. They wanted to get into show business.
As a matter of fact, as Jewish people, I was never bar mitzvah myself nor my 3 brothers, and my parents would only join a synagogue to audition for the shows. When the synagogue would put on its Purim show, they put on a musical, and to raise money for the shul, for the temple. So when my father heard there was an open call for My Fair Lady at Temple Beth Am, they joined the synagogue so they could audition for the show.
Are you noticing any similarities between his story and mine?
I want to hear yours.
Definitely. Danley joined church just so he could play guitar because they would give him a stage.
Well, you play guitar?
Oh yeah, I play guitar and this. This is a little bit of a drive for me.
Oh yeah.
Hey, you want to think about coming to church? It's too far. You want to start a podcast? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll come to church.
Yeah, I'm in. This is something I've wanted to do for a long time. I understand. And then he's slowly tricking me into joining his church, and here I am now.
That's working.
Yeah, I should have said slowly tricked.
I'd come to your church just off this so far.
Whenever you're in Dallas, come on. It's an open invitation.
And we'll go take you for a cigar, because I believe you are a cigar man.
I am, sir. Well, I mean, once every now and then, I have a friend in Canada who sends me lovely Cuban cigars.
Ooh.
And I shouldn't support the regime.
The Canadian regime?
The Canadian regime. Absolutely.
I actually had a dream. I'm wondering if you can help me out with this. Help me with the Prime Minister of Canada,
Justin Trudeau.
I had a dream. I do not know why, and this has been haunting me. This is a true story. Several weeks ago, I had a dream, and it's recurred once or twice, that Vladimir Putin, Justin Trudeau, and I are standing around hugging each other, and there's no dialogue that I can remember, but this has happened over and over. Do you have any idea?
So it's Putin and who?
Trudeau, Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada.
And does Putin have his shirt on?
Yes.
You can be honest.
He might be shirtless riding a horse.
Don't be afraid of your emotions.
I don't know.
I don't know, but maybe you can help me with my dream, which is the Pope chasing me with an axe. If you can solve mine, I'll try to solve yours.
I'll think about it.
Yeah, there's got to be some sort of absolution metaphor in there. It's of some kind. So you get to acting school at NYU.
Yeah.
And you meet some very talented guys there, guys that have had brilliant careers in their own regard. So Yeah, but it's this incredible talent pool. So what gets you to
this point,
the next step?
These boys are being disruptive and not taking anything seriously.
Yeah, they're tapping into their potential.
Yeah.
Well, Chris and Mike did a little better with the acting. We would do, if you did a funny scene at acting school, and instead of a crying where you cry and lay on the floor and Uncle Vanya, like we would do funny scenes for our teacher, our class, our assignments. And if you were funny, it was to these, when you're that age and you're in the acting world, everybody was so snobby, I'll never forget. I was lucky. I started out as an actor, small A, but I did a lot of stuff, Broadway and
Gunsmoke,
Mannix and all that. And
so cool.
Yeah.
So my first year, I got a lot of commercials. And I got a commercial where I'm a teenager in my room and I'm talking about, I'm a car nut. And, there's pennants in my room and it's about Sunoco gasoline. So this is how snobby it was there. We were watching, I'm old enough to, at that point, the 69 World Series with the Mets winning, the big 1969 World Series. And I'm not a sports guy, but it was a big deal even then for me. And my commercial, everybody's in the green room of the school watching one of the games. And this commercial of me just standing there talking about Sunoco gasoline. And I'm a car nut, And they all looked at me like I had killed somebody, like I was a big sellout, Meanwhile, I'm paying for my whole year of school. I don't have to get a job.
Right.
But anyway, the funny thing is that, and Chris and Mike played right from the beginning. They had been playing for guitar by themselves for years. That's where they met as well, And Chris. Mike had gone to school with Loudon Wainwright, the folk music writer, great guy, and and Chris grew up in the city. His father was a lord, or an English lord, and Chris has a title too, which is funny. And
really,
Mike came from Long Island, and these guys were 2 years older. So one night Chris said to me, I'm just like, I got the pinky ring and the Gant shirt and the loafers, and they're already got long hair. It's 1967, and and Mike and Chris one night says, "Hey man, come on over for dinner in my apartment. I'm living with someone, and they're going to make dinner." So I thought, I'm living with some guy. He's got a roommate, I go there, and there's this incredible woman, and he's living with a woman out of wedlock. And I'm like, I'm 18, and I go, am I in the right town or what? I mean, that's how naive I was, you know. But also that was the time when everything was like, hair was just opening across from our acting school, musical Hair.
Oh, wow.
But at acting school, and I don't think I've ever heard anyone say this about acting, they wanted to hold me back a year. They wanted
in acting school?
A year in acting school.
Why?
Because I guess they didn't think I was any good. But, so imagine, artistic differences, you know.
Right.
And I remember thinking, how do I tell my father, Dad, they want to hold me back a year at acting school? Like my dad's a kid. I thought that's what you could do, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I said to them, meanwhile, while they were deciding whether to hold me back or not, I got into one of the most important plays of the year called Saved, a British play that was written by the same guy who wrote Joe Egg, a very famous English writer. And I said, you guys can't hold me back. I'm opening at the Cherry Lane Theater in a month. So I left acting school and never stopped. I really haven't stopped working except for, you know, here and there, just the way you do. But anyway.
Yeah, and I heard you discussing about being in Child's Play. What I really want to know is Gunsmoke. How was Gunsmoke?
No. Sometimes I think about these stuff and I just can't believe it. Sometimes I remember things like that if someone maybe outside of show business that would be the only thing they'd have to remember. That would be the biggest thing in their life. But, Frankie, come on in.
we also love dogs, so you're good.
Good. We got two dogs. I'm a dog nut. I'm a car nut and a dog nut. I was talking about what?
You're talking about things that you've done so many things that you forget some of the things
like
that you've done.
I remembered that in my early 20s, it began to shift over. Sometimes I'd be writing stuff, and sometimes I'd be in a play, and sometimes I'd be, like for the National Lampoon, I'd be off doing some play in Boston, but sending stuff into the Radio Hour or the magazine. So I didn't know I was a writer till that's more jobs that I got as a writer. You know, I'm a writer now. Okay.
The money started showing up with that.
Yeah.
So how did you get involved with National Lampoon?
Chris met somebody, Christopher Guest, met a guy named Henry Beard. Okay. And he said, look, they want to come up and pitch an idea with me. You know, he said, if I could come up with a funny idea, they'd give us a story to put in the National Lampoon magazine, which maybe your listeners don't know, but it was like The Onion, but it was pretty big. It was a national magazine, humor magazine.
It was huge.
Huge, yeah. And so on the way up on the subway, we made up a story that we pitched to Henry Beard, Doug Kenny, may he rest in soul. May he rest in peace, and may he rest his soul too.
Yeah.
And anyway, a beautiful guy. And we came up with this story about a guy who goes home to his high school reunion after a couple of years, and everyone in the town has the legs of a gnat. We called it "You Gotta Believe Me." And we made up a couple of things, and then we pitched it like we really had thought about it. And that was the first thing we wrote. And then the Radio Hour, which was the spinoff, then it was a weekly show. It was on Sunday nights for some reason, 10 o'clock. But it really caught on with university people and kids and stuff. And so we did that, and Belushi was up there. And that's where I first met Chevy Chase, and that Billy Murray was there. Richard Belzer was there. He was also one of my best friends. And who else? Brian Murray. Mm-hmm. And so I then just kind of started doing that. So I'd already been published in the Lampoon. I'm like 22, and I'm getting work as an actor, but I'm writing these things. And I begin to realize I kind of knew I was funny, but that doesn't always translate into I can write. You know, So I thought, I can write. I can write funny stuff. So you know, it was still a few years. Like there was the Gunsmoke things and the Mannix things, and Broadway and off Broadway, and then theaters in Washington, Boston. You know, doing those hacky, you know, summer stock things, and also good stuff. But then the writing just kind of became a thing. And my big break, really, which I'm happy to tell you about, I mean, in terms of writing, Chris and I did a bunch of things. And I had done a bunch of things before this in terms of writing that were kind of, pretty good in showbiz. But my big change came when Chevy Chase left Saturday Night Live. And you guys are, you know about it, but you're too young to have remembered that Chevy was the biggest thing in the country. Two episodes into Saturday Night Live, he was on the cover of every magazine, whatever. And it's very boastful to tell these stories, but I don't know any other stories. I've never been out of the business.
That's why we wanted to have you on, is because we just want to hear cool stories.
Yeah,
okay.
and we love Bill Murray and Chevy Chase and John Belushi and Christopher Guest. Does Christopher actually have 6 fingers?
No.
Okay, so that was a prop.
I don't know. Maybe he could afford a 6 finger.
Just have it put on.
Very well.
Yeah.
He didn't have them when I knew him. But we're still in touch. We're still in touch.
Yeah, but we're huge fans of those guys. I'm completely fascinated with the story of Doug Kenny.
Yeah.
And
what was the movie?
So
I was trying to
a
remember
futile and stupid gesture, and it stars.
I loved it.
And it stars Will Forte, who is brilliant in his own regard. He was a great cast member on Saturday Night Live. Both a very he's a wonderful dramatic and comedic actor.
Last Man on Earth is one of my favorite shows.
Yeah. So he has an uncredited role in the show Sweet Tooth that's recently come out on Netflix. That's phenomenal. One of the things that fascinated me so much, I was familiar with National Lampoon before the movie came out, but since I saw the movie,
mainly as the title, National Lampoon's Caddyshack,
and I knew about the magazine, but I didn't know much about it. Well, since the movie came out, a futile and stupid gesture, I've read the book, and I have become fascinated with the life of Doug Kenny. And the impact that he has had, because I think you and him are sort of in the same realm of people who've had a tremendous impact on culture, though they aren't household names.
Well, that's very generous of you to say, but I think Doug had a lot more influence than I ever will. But it's interesting, Reverend, and to get serious for a moment.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I have a friend who I ran a TV show over in London a couple of years ago, a big sitcom over there. And I love working over in London. And I've done a bunch of shows over there. And I met a woman had written me for when I was coming over, can I interview you for The Guardian, which is a big Catholic news.
Yeah.
Probably know about it. And I said, sure. And I said, I guess. So I get over there and I kind of forgot about it. And this woman from The Guardian, I didn't know what it was. I figured it's going to be a little old Irish lady. And I said, okay, great. And she wanted to interview me because when she had a dear friend who was close to suicide. And every night, she's a wonderful Irish woman named Mary O'Regan. Lovely, beautiful. She stays with us when she's in town. And she contacted me because every night she would go to this poor woman's house who's contemplating suicide, so depressed, and play Seinfeld episodes for her and sit there with her and keep her going every night. And on the credits, she would see, she thought that everybody on the show was Jewish, which
right.
Pretty accurate.
They aren't?
And right. Yeah. And she saw my name and she started praying for me that I would someday convert to Catholicism. And she was very, very connected to the Lord and very, very, direct line,
Mm-hmm.
She's got God's, cell phone.
We call them prayer warriors.
Yeah.
Prayer warriors. Yeah. Anyway, so I go in and interview her and by this time I had converted to Catholicism.
Well, it's a great segue because that was something we wanted to ask about how you went from growing up. What was the term? Secularly Jewish?
Yeah, he's
not practicing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but very, very proud to be Jewish, and as I always say, you don't get this funny not being Jewish.
Dang it!
We're never gonna get it.
Well, okay. So how does the rest of the world? How do we catch up?
Well, it's a funny joke, but it's not even close to true. Like some of but waspy kind of Gentile humor is funny, and it's just as funny, but funny in such a different way.
Yeah.
Like I've worked with really funny,
Saying-
Gentile
Saying
writers.
this prosciutto is off. Is that a
But no,
waspy
it's like,
joke?
they'll do some joke about a barn silo or something I would never know about. You know what I mean? But you know what's great is everybody everybody's got their own little thing. And that's why when you do a sitcom like a Cheers or Seinfeld or something, you want to cast the room just like you would cast the show, right? So you want some guy who can't do what you do and makes you laugh anyway. You want this person who can't do what that has this whole coming from this whole other place. And it's funny when you read scripts to see who you want to hire. Sometimes it just takes one line. Oh, gee, I couldn't have written that line. It makes you want to call the person up and be friends with them and everything. and that brings me back to I think you might find this interesting. My big break that Chevy gave me when he left Saturday Night Live.
The special.
He owed NBC 2 specials because they didn't want to let him go. And I had met him during the first year of Saturday Night Live at an after TV show party, after SNL Live party at Dan Aykroyd's, who I've written for as well, and he was a really good guy. But and I'm sitting there, and Chris Guest was there, and Chris and Chevy had shared a house in Hollywood, back when they were both struggling. And so I'm sitting on this couch having a drink, and it's the Belushi and all them people, and Chevy Chase, who is now on every magazine cover in every grocery store, and he comes over and he sits down next to me. And Chris Guest had told them a lot about me. He sits down next to me. He just takes a minute and he goes, "So I hear you're the funniest guy." And I just went, "Yeah." Yep.
Well.
And that made him laugh so hard. The fact that I disagreed with him, not that I tried to be funny, right? Anyway, so a few weeks later, I get a call from Chevy. He says, "Look, he gets my number. He says, "Look, I got to do this TV special. I want you to write on it. I owe it to NBC, but I only want you to write on it if what I heard you say, you actually said." And I said, "Well, what did I say?" And I was doing a play in Boston, and my friend, and actually it was Chris Guest's sister, who I've known since she was 14, wanted to come up and see me in the play, and I had an apartment. And I said, "Sure, Lisa, come up and see it." And she says, "Yeah, I'll come. I'll stay 2 or 3 days." And I said, "Stay 2." And Chevy thought that was fun.
two or three.
Yeah. And he said, "Did you say that?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "Okay, I want you to write my show." And ended up writing a lot of his show.
And the rest is history.
The rest is a very hidden history, yes. Except now it's all going to be out there.
Oh yeah,
right?
Yeah. All 3 of our listeners.
Yeah, they're all 3 of them are going to know exactly what happened between Tom Leopold and Chevy Chase now.
Yeah.
The interesting thing was, though, excuse me, but I was just going to say that I learned a lot from Chevy. Like, I don't need to read a guy's whole script to know. God, just one thing can tell you who the guy is behind the shovel. It really helped me when I was hiring people. It's like I never could have thought of that. You're not jealous. You're just so thrilled that there's somebody else who can do a thing like that. So I learned that you don't have to. You can just go with your gut. So.
And you've made an incredible career since that. You did the stuff with the National Lampoons. You got to work with Chevy Chase on his specials, did some stuff on the Chevy Chase show, if I'm not mistaken, and then you've worked on the seminal shows of the 80s and 90s, and as far as sitcoms go. The show that I am most familiar with that you worked on is the show Cheers. Cheers has been one of my loves since I was a kid. It was the show that I'm the oldest of 4, and when my dad finally started trusting me to stay up late, that I would get up and go to school. That was the thing that my dad and I did together. So the rest of the siblings would go to bed, and then I got to stay up and watch an episode of Cheers. So I was up for a half hour later than everybody else, and that was our thing. From when we moved into our first house when we got back from Hawaii. So about age 5 for me up until probably close to age 8 or 9, whenever they made the shift from Cheers to Frasier. What was First,
That
how
was
long
my
did?
favorite job? My favorite job was Cheers.
Yeah. So how long did you work on the show? What was it like working with that cast? How did you get involved with them? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I just done Seinfeld, the first season, the first 30 shows of Seinfeld, because I knew Larry David from New York and
Right.
and he had just done a couple of those shows called the Seinfeld Chronicles. And I called him up. I said, "Gee, man, that's funny. Great, congratulations." And then they got picked up for 9 episodes. And he said, "Come out and write on it." I said, "Okay, great." I figured my wife was pregnant with our first child. And at 9 episodes, that's so and such and such an episode. You know,
Yeah.
you don't know it's going to be Seinfeld, you know. And went out and did that, and it was, we were dying. We had very low ratings, but I would go to parties. Like, it's the first time I ever felt what a celebrity must feel like, because enough of the shows had gone out that it started to become a really in thing. I mean, the ratings weren't good, but people were kind of into it. And someone came up to me, a celebrity at a party, and said, "You write on Seinfeld?" And it's first one, oh gosh, I guess this is what celebrities go through, you know. And then they moved us to it, and then it started to really take off, you know. But and that was fun, that was great. But I got an offer to do Cheers from that. And I went on to Cheers, and I really had a great time, because I've never worked with funnier people in the room.
Right.
You know, the room is where all the writers are, and where you're stuck from 10 in the morning till 2 in the morning coming up with, right? And you're so tired by the end of the pitching jokes at 2 a.m. the word duty becomes the funniest thing in your whole life. And you actually put it in the script, and the actors next morning when they're rehearsing go, "I don't get why duties." Never actually put duty in, but you know what I mean? You lose your mind. It's like
It's delirium.
it's solitary with a bunch of other people. You know? But Cheers was a really fun group of really great writers. They were all young, and because I came to the sitcom thing sort of late, luckily kind of at the boom time. But the cast of Cheers, you know, you really don't have that much to do with them unless you're the top guy. Then you got to go and listen to. But they were the nicest bunch of actors. And what I learned from subsequently doing a lot of other shows, it all comes from the top. It all comes from the star. The star sets the vibe, right? So everybody was nice, like Ted Danson. Everybody was sweet. And it's the only show I was ever on, a sitcom, where anytime any of them were interviewed, they always mentioned the writers.
Really?
Yeah. And it's the only time. I mean, I could think of, maybe I missed something, but that always made us feel, because they, you know, but also it was the 11th year of it.
Right.
Cheers. And I would have stayed there the rest of my life. I loved it. But then Ted Danson started dating Whoopi Goldberg, and Whoopi Goldberg started whispering in Ted's ear, "You don't need this. You don't quit Cheers."
They dated?
Yeah.
You throw 300 people out of work, right? And he quit. They weren't going to go do the show without him. So I only did the last full year, but it was great because it was the last year. We started doing all these extra episodes and hours and things. So I made money, but it was, that was sort of like the Rolls Royce of sitcom writing. Like, you know, we had a cook, you know, it was like,
whoa.
Yeah, but also it was rare. I really kind of learned, you know, I kind of learned the job, how to sort of do it from because with Larry David and Jerry, you know, we just didn't know what, you know, and of course it was all Larry's brilliance and Jerry's, and we just helped what we could, but it wasn't classically done. It was like, because they didn't know from sitcoms, and I'd done a few things here and there. I did this Dream On and a few of these shows, but anyway, so but Cheers, I'm glad you liked that. Those guys, the great thing about that show as a writer was, if a line you wrote for one of the actors didn't get a laugh, you knew it wasn't the actor's fault.
Yeah,
No, it's your fault.
Yeah, their characters were so well defined. One of my favorite stories, John Ratzenberger tells it, is that he originally auditioned for the part of Norm, who is famous for his one-liners going into the bar and then like never seeing his wife Vera during the whole series. So they're escorting him out after the audition, and they tell him that they really like what he did, but they didn't think he would fit the part. But they'd call him and let him know. And he looks at him and he goes, "Well, do you have a bar know-it-all?" They're like, "What?" And he goes, "Do you have a bar know-it-all?" Because every bar has a know-it-all. And then he created the part of Cliff on his way out of his audition for Norm. And those two are kind of the anchors of the show at the end of the bar. Well, one of the things I've always been curious about, and I've heard this, is that a lot of the bar know-it-all facts that Cliff comes up with are just lines that he issued off the top of his head, that most of those were unscripted and it was just stuff that he came up with. And that's never anything I've heard him say. But I'm curious, is that true, or, were those things
never
written?
Heard that story, but that's a great story, and I'm sure it's true. But by the time I got there, what happens is sometimes an actor will come in, like you've written a character, right? And the actor comes in, and actors come in all day, and you kind of your face starts to hurt because you want to be polite, and they're not good, or they're not right. Not that they're not good, and then somebody will come in and ding, it's like a dog hearing a particular kind of whistle, that's guy's great. But sometimes they don't even match the character you wrote. You'd rather now take the character and adapt it to what this hysterical person is doing. So I'm sure that he probably did improvise all those things early on, but our jobs were to now let's write a know-it-all for Cliff, So then you kind of help the actors out, but that was his invention. But after a while, you want to give him some choices, So,
well, we saw sitcoms evolve to where it's really formulaic. Did you have any kind of formula when writing, or was it just generally telling a story, loosely?
Well, if you're talking about those two shows, you sort of have to go with a template, right? Mm-hmm. It's an interesting problem because you want to write a show that fits into what they've been doing, but if you can really be lucky, you want to add another little shade to it of what they've been doing that they haven't thought of. So sometimes the formula is so great it doesn't matter, as long as you could almost, people would laugh when Norm walked in before he said anything.
Yeah.
You just knew, okay, here it comes. They just knew something great was coming. And so, I believe, especially shows like Cheers, that
Kramer on Seinfeld.
You just want to be with these people. You just want to be with these people for a half hour a week. So, people are always trying to break the mold or break the form, but it's all just a play. And if you don't have to, breaking the form doesn't mean it's going to be good. You can, if you can break the form and be hilarious, great, but you don't need to break the form to do, a good show. It depends how good the form is.
We've talked about the evolution of sitcoms. One of the things that evolved from Cheers to Seinfeld to the things that you did later was the taping in front of a live studio audience. What was that like as a writer, that kind of evolution to writing to a live audience where you're going to get the laugh and know whether or not something landed versus the laugh track, and now to where there's no laugh track, nothing in a lot of these sitcoms?
Well, except for having to spend those hours writing all night long and then going to the run through the next day and then rewriting it. And, when you have an audience with multi cameras, you write all week and then the audience comes on the last day and they're there. But what's great about it is to hear, okay, here comes George Wendt now, and he's going to say this line I wrote, I know he's going to say it good. And to hear your line, pop, like just that sweet spot on the bat, of some great ball player. And that's great. So, that's really fun to have the audience. But the hours are great for actors because they can have a normal life. It's a 9 to 5 job, except for one night a week.
Right.
But when you're writing 28 episodes, and I'm not complaining because thank God you came at the height of all that, and I was able to have something lanced. I could afford to have things lanced. Or that I just would let them swell up, You know what I mean? I just
you have time and money to have things lanced.
I didn't have lancing money. Now I hope something swells, I hope some huge pustule happens.
I'm ready. I got time and money now.
Where were you when I was broke? Yeah. Right. But
I am hoping at some point to fall out of my chair genuinely laughing. This might be the episode. We'll see.
Is that an honor?
Well, so evolving from Cheers. Speaking of evolving from Cheers, we got Frasier. With Kelsey Grammer getting his spin-off show.
Yeah.
Have you heard about the revival of Frasier?
I didn't really watch that show very much.
Really?
I would dip in and out of it. I don't really watch a lot of comedies. I don't. I didn't. When I was a kid, I watched sitcoms, and they were great. And I watched some sitcoms, and of course now I watch the good things on Netflix and stuff. But at the time our kids were young, and at 8:30 I wasn't going to go watch Moesha.
Right. Tamara,
sister.
Yeah, Sister Soldier. I'll tell you a funny story. When we were doing Cheers, our writing room was directly across the little bit of litty bitty road in Paramount with the Moesha writing room.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, I'm sorry.
Oh no, that was me. Just ignore it.
That's my wife telling me she's leaving me. Anyway, I get. I hope she's leaving me for somebody with money. That's for sure. But anyway, one day we were, exhausted and bored, and we would leave. And sometimes we'd leave. The Cheers staff would leave before the writers at Moesha would leave, and we would say to ourselves, "What the hell? The writers of Moesha need to stay so long for it."
Yeah.
How good a Moesha is it going to get? How good could it ever get? That you got to stay there till 2 a.m. And so we would do certain things like take bets, but we all took a bet like the next morning to come in with a spec Moesha, and whoever had the best spec Moesha, spec like you can write a version of their script. And so everybody had a hilarious one, but I won. I'm proud to say because mine was, Moe. I don't know if anybody remembers.
Oh, I remember
with pop star Brandy.
Yeah,
as
I wasn't allowed to watch it, but I found a way.
Nice.
And my spec script was, it's Thanksgiving, and they're poor, they don't have much money, but Moesha accidentally sticks her food stamps to a fan letter to Peebo Bryson. Okay. Now they don't have food stamps to get a turkey for Thanksgiving. It's very sad. And that's actually one of my proudest moments. It had nothing to do with actually getting on the air. So anyway, of course you know what happens. Oh, no, we don't have a turkey, and here it is, Thanksgiving. Ding dong. I wonder who that could be. And Moesha goes to the door and opens it and goes, Peebo Bryson. And Peebo Bryson's standing there with a big turkey on a platter.
Just like Scrooge.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, that
would have made a great episode.
Yeah.
It's one of those bad ideas that you would see in a movie where someone's watching a sitcom.
But it would be amazing.
Yeah.
It'd be one of my favorite episodes. I'd star that one.
So formulaic. Talk about formula. That's every bad sitcom's formula, whether it's not food stamps. But
what's the worst sitcom on TV right now?
Ooh, that's a good question.
But I have a follow-up question. My follow-up question is, what would you write now to make it funnier? Writing your own spec.
Yeah.
So it's not just talking crap about a bad sitcom.
I could have a show on now.
Yeah. If there's a bad, I'm trying to think of a sitcom that I would think is bad. I don't know.
Ted Lasso.
I don't. Ted Lasso is not a bad show.
Ted Lasso's
No,
great.
but I just started watching Ted Lasso because I'm involved in creating a new show with a star that is going to make a comeback to TV. And so I've been watching these Ted Lasso type shows. And I watched the first one last night. What do you think of it?
I love Jason Sudeikis.
Yeah.
I've been a huge fan of his since his days on SNL. I was one of the few people that stuck through the Son of Zorn series from like episode 1 until that ended. I thought he did a brilliant job with that, and I think he's doing a great job of playing the good guy.
Yeah, I am up to date. The season 1, episode 2 came out last.
Don't tell me because I'm just getting into it. But.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll just say, no spoilers, no information at all, other than I have seen season 2, episode 1.
Yep.
That's the end of that story.
He's a super charming guy. He plays that character really well. He is a great,
and he created that character for a commercial.
Yeah. And it was just so good that they stuck with it.
So what do you think? You've seen the first episode. What do you think about it?
Oh, I think it's really good. I tell you though, I think, and this is the sort of the thing that you kind of have to figure whenever you're pitching a series. Okay, here's the pilot. Now, what's episode 100 about?
Yeah.
Because you got to think of something that isn't like, can you see 28 episodes of this? Does this have legs? I mean, sometimes an idea would be really great, but the ideas that don't have legs are things like, well, she can become invisible anytime she smells cranberry juice. I don't know. Yeah. And I'm not putting cranberry juice down. I love cranberry juice. But you know what I mean? So I don't know if I want to see year 3 of that, But guys in a bar, and when you create a new show, you kind of want to leave it plain enough that the characters are the little candy things on it,
Yeah.
And to your point, Ted Lasso, the premise is that there's an American football coach who goes to England having no soccer, what we call soccer experience, they would call it football. And he's tasked with essentially winning.
Yeah, he's a Division II.
How do you bring
coach.
that to 100 episodes?
Well, I'd be curious to see how they do season 2.
Yeah.
It's very close to what happened with me the first time I went to run a show in England.
Okay.
It's very much, watching this thing last night, the pilot, I thought, boy, I know just what he's going through. Because they wanted an American writer to come over and and show run this sitcom, which is unusual in England, and do it like an American Room and all that. And, I watched it. It's the biggest hit there, except for this thing that's been on for 140 years called, not Carnaby Street, but Coronation Street. Anyway, but, I watched the shows and stuff, but I could watch them more closely. But I get there and the actors are kind of crazy. And, it was hard. It was very hard. But I met I hired these great English writers that are still friends of mine. But I know what that guy was feeling like,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And in fact, it's funny that she just hires him to ruin the team. It's very much like the producers.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep. Which
you said the magic word.
Yeah, we'll revisit some Mel Brooks stuff here.
I want to ask
towards
you
the
about
end of the
some Mel
interview.
Brooks stuff.
But yeah, it does have that kind of feel to it.
He's one of the few heroes I haven't met or written for.
No way. That was going to be my first question. Have you met? Do you know Mel Brooks?
I'm not even sure I met him. I don't know, but of course, idolized him. Idolized him since the 2,000-year-old man party records. When I was a kid, they had comedy records. Can you hear that bell? I don't know how to turn it.
We can. It's okay.
We can take it out in post.
Well, I'll just read you what it is.
Yeah.
No, it's one of my daughters. Anyway, they're communicating. But anyway, so we would listen to Bob Newhart's Button Down Mind. You put the album on the hi-fi, and then you'd have a party, and people come over and listen to the comedy record. But I would listen and listen. And a lot of guys my age I remember seeing Elvis the first time I was ever on TV. I was like 6 years old. And I thought, gee, what the heck is this? But the thrill that I know a lot of guitar players and musicians who, that's it. That's what set them on fire, right?
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was seeing Art Carney and the Honeymooners. That was my Elvis, And I couldn't believe something could be so funny. I couldn't get over it. Like I'd obsess about it, So you listen to these comedy records, and then I think I've led you off the path of where you were going, but I don't know Mel Brooks, but I love the 2,000-Year-Old Man and those records, and Jonathan Winters, who was one of my gods. No offense, Reverend.
No, you're fine.
I know there's only one.
I take offense.
I know there's only one, but we knew it. My brother and I would just lay down in front of the big hi-fi, and listen to Jonathan Winters records, and then you go to school and you do his bits and rip him off.
Mm-hmm. That's how it starts.
You're 12 years old and you're stealing material,
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you guys are fans of Jonathan Winters, but
yes,
he to me, he was an angel, And I was working on a show with another one of my idols, Steve Allen, who is kind of forgotten, but he was like the David Letterman of the early 60s, the late 50s, right? Okay. And I was writing a brief show with him, and Jonathan Winters was on. So here I am meeting Steve Allen, who was another one of my heroes, huge hero of mine. I mean, just the way kids idolize Dave Letterman. And I got this job writing for him. And I wrote a sketch, and the first day of shooting, we're at a location. It's a movie theater in Santa Monica. And there he is. He's standing right next to me. Now, I was so into how fast he was, the funny things he could say so fast. And, I mean, it really was like a rock god to me,
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm standing at the first day of work. I don't even know what to say to him. I'm so excited. I'm not nervous. I'm just so excited. And he was very tall, and he about half a foot taller. And I noticed that he had a round Band-Aid right here on his neck, like for a pimple, where he kind of was shaving or something. And all of a sudden, I just went right up here, and I just put my finger on the Band-Aid and left it there for a long time. And I said, Gwen, bring my car around. Tell Charlie to make the barbershop appointment. I want the shoes done, but I don't want the, and just kept going, like I'm talking in an intercom in his neck. And luckily for me, he just fell down.
You have to. I mean,
That's awesome.
I would fall down laughing too.
Yeah, but right after I did it, I thought, oh my God, you're insane. You could get fired.
It would be like me going up and doing that to Bill Murray or something.
Oh, yeah.
Like you could
But then
destroy
getting
my
people
world.
laugh,
Yeah. But
But,
I think Bill Murray would find that funny too.
Well, if you got Bill Murray to laugh, it sounds like it's a lot like Tom's story, that it would just be one of those, watershed moments in your life where you're like, okay, it worked.
Yeah.
Whatever it was.
He's not a hard laugh to get. He loves a good laugh. But anyway, so Steve ends up putting me on as a writer on the show, playing Tom Leopold, the writer, with Catherine O'Hara. We were both just hired as writers.
Ooh, wonderful.
Another brilliant actress.
She's in Schitt's Creek. Now that's the Christian. That's the Christian version.
That's the church version of it.
Schitt's Creek.
And Catherine and I would work makeup bits, and we ended up dancing with Donald O'Connor. Catherine and I. I mean, things that I'm out of high school 7 years, and I'm meeting these people like it's that painting of Michelangelo where the Lord is. I get to touch these gods of mine like that, And so I have more stories like that. One about Johnny Winters, who was a beautiful guy. But anyway, there's so much to brag about.
That's amazing. We've talked a lot about your entertainment career as far as it relates to your acting and television. We touched on Kelsey Grammer. You and Kelsey Grammer and John Goodman worked on a very obscure project called J. Edgar, which is a musical about J. Edgar Hoover, who ran the FBI. I want to know everything about this, but I will settle for just where the idea came from, how you ended up with those guys, and what was that process like? And do you have any footage of the actual play? Because I can't find footage of it anywhere.
Well, wasn't a play. We did it. It was a radio national broadcast for NPR. and they had a thing called Playwrights something. Anyway, Harry called me, and Harry Shearer and I written so much together. And Harry said, look, they'll let me do a 2-hour musical. They'll let me do 2 hours of anything, I want to do. And he said, I don't know who said what, but we decided to do a musical. And I can't remember if it was me or Harry who was reading about J. Edgar Hoover, who's a big queen,
Yeah.
He was. Clyde Colson, he passed off as his lifetime assistant.
He was the most dangerous man in America, and liked to cross-dress.
Yes, he was a cross-dresser, and we thought, as soon as we thought of that, but we wanted to write it very much like the musicals of the late 50s.
You nailed it.
Really take it seriously. It's a love affair between two people.
I didn't know.
They meet in the men's room of the Store Club. Clyde Tolson is on restroom duty. No pun intended, sir.
Yeah, he's on restroom duty and he's reading his Bible in a stall.
That's Cleophas. That's the shoeshine guy. And they're standing at the urinal, and just like in Phantom of the Opera, when the chandelier falls, they start singing a song called "Once Upon a Face." In the urinal, and the urinals break free of their moorings and float over the audience. I mean, this is what we would do. And we almost got it actually made into a real musical with Kelsey.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway.
That has got to be made.
It's brilliant.
Could that be made in today's political climate?
I don't know. If it was made, it would either break through this wall of nonsense or we'd be hung in the public.
Canceled.
It would either make us like rebel, like the Che Guevaras of comedy, although he was a murdering piece of crap. But you get my meaning.
Yes. Yeah. Do you think Kelsey Grammer would reprise his role as J. Edgar?
He's tried. He's come with us to fundraising meetings to do it.
Oh, that would be amazing.
He's one of those that I love.
After hearing him deliver the lines and sing, I think there's no other person that could.
Sing. And John Goodman is his lifetime. It's just really.
Yeah, and it's hysterical.
Before COVID, Harry had put together a movie deal for us to do it for a low budget in England, and it fell apart over COVID.
Oh, wow! That's got to get made.
I want that so bad to happen.
I mean, they made the Book of Mormon. I'm trying to think of some other, offensive.
But now you know what they're doing? They're changing some of the Book of Mormon.
Oh no!
To be more politically correct, and I haven't seen it, but my kids haven't. They say it's brilliant. I'm sure it is. But I was so disappointed to hear that they would go back and change it.
Yeah, that's surprising for Trey and Matt.
Yeah,
I don't think they have never pulled their punches, so I'm surprised to hear that. But
you know what? If you have a hit Broadway play like that,
you probably want to keep it going
all over the country, and it's touring all over the world. You can make more money from that than any hit movie ever.
Really?
Yeah.
Hence Hamilton.
And the upcoming Broadway production of J. Edgar.
Oh, I'm in.
By Tom Leopold and Harry Shearer.
If you need some backup dancers, let us know.
So there's another little known thing, and this one is a little bit more shrouded in mystery. And Dan Lee found this while doing some research about a roast that happened in 2011.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love to know. So in 2011, you converted to Catholicism, correct?
That's right. The Jews kicked me out.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like Harry Shearer at least wanted to bring you back to the tribe.
Oh my God! Well, Paul Schaefer, not to drop another name, but he's been my best friend for 40 years. He played the wedding march at our wedding, and we've just known each other since we were in our early 20s. And anyway, and and so through some illness of one of my children, all these kind of supernatural things began to happen to me when I actually really sat down and, okay, I'm going to really pray now, and not joke around. But what did I know from praying? All I knew from praying was like watching an episode of Wagon Train where the wagon master goes behind the
right. You thought you always had to have a big kettle of beans when you prayed?
Yeah. If you just get us through Comanche territory. I don't know. So Anyway, all these things began to happen, and it brought me to Jesus, and the Catholic faith. And it's I sometimes you draw me, I'll come on and tell the story. It's kind of long, but it's pretty interesting. It's
No doubt.
a few supernatural little items in there that I finally went going, okay, I get it. Stop. You're scaring me, you know.
Uncle.
Yeah. So anyway, when I was going to on Easter, you know, I was just about to be baptized and brought into the Catholic Church. So Paul Schaefer throws me a Tom Leopold's Last Day as a Jew roast at Sammy's Romanian kosher restaurant. And everybody, all my friends came and just tortured me about it. And Harry and Paul had the opening line. He was the Toastmaster, and it was all this kosher food. And all my friends came and did jokes. And Paul's opening line was, "How about this? Isn't this great? Does Tom Leopold know how to abandon his people or what?" That was sort of the tone of the evening.
Joke
and then
one.
and then we had a gospel choir singing and who backups for those Stones. I mean, this is, you know, and we videoed it. So we're actually putting together some video of it, doing a little sizzle reel for a documentary about my whole experience.
Oh, that'd be wonderful.
Richard Belzer and Paul Schaefer. But anyway, halfway through, Harry comes on. I didn't even know Harry Shearer flew in from California and comes in full Orthodox rabbi clothing, the big fur hat too. You know, the big fur hat.
Yeah, the curls.
The curl, the payas, he had everything. And he goes to the mic, and Rabbi Shlomo Lop, Paul introduced him, and he goes, "Tamala, there's no funny people with a goyim. What are you going to do? Watch Carrot Top?" It was an intervention. He performed an intervention. You know? And it was genius. And it was one of the most beautiful nights of my life. It was because everybody, you know, all my good friends knew what my wife and I were going through with, you know, because I'm sure you've heard Reverend through people suffering, you know.
Absolutely.
Stuff. So they didn't care I was abandoning my people, you know, because I wasn't. To me, it's just like, wow, if I had been there in those days as a Jew, I probably would have, if I had had the courage, which I wouldn't have, of course, I would have just followed them anyway. But anyway, so that's kind of a great moment in my, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful moment. Everybody, it was a great night, you know.
Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing bits and pieces of that documentary, and I don't want to gloss over this because I know you mentioned it in part, but how is your daughter doing now since all of that? And that was a very instrumental piece of you coming to faith.
Yes, yeah, much better.
Good,
much better. You know, struggling at times, like so many people are, and so many people's children are, and so many fathers are. But thank God I found some faith. You know that. You know, now I only have to do like half as much heroin.
You can cut back a little bit.
I can save a lot of that money, you know?
Yeah.
My dealer, he's outrageous.
So, have you seen any Christian movies?
Oh, yes, of course.
How do we make them better, Tom Leopold?
Well, some of them are really good. I mean, part of what brought me to faith was my wife and I went to see this terrible movie with Jim Carrey called The Eternal Sunshine
of the Spotless Mind. Yeah.
The Eternal Sunshine of My Spotless Pants. Anyway, we go there and we had to sit in the front row, and I didn't get it, you know, and I'm sure Jim Carrey didn't get it either. It's really boring. So I noticed on the way into the Cineplex that a remake of Walking Tall was playing with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, you know. So I said, honey, I'm looking like this, too. So right in the front row. I said, I'm going to go watch that. She goes, oh, yeah, I go, you know, my wife. She gets it, you know. So I go to watch Walking Tall, but that's just about to end. And I noticed that what's just about to start is the Passion of Christ. With you know,
the Mel Gibson film.
Yeah.
Mel Gibson.
Jim Caviezel as Jesus.
Yep.
Yeah, and I sat down in that movie, and there was no question that I was helped along into Theater 6.
Yeah, no kidding.
I wandered into Theater 6 all by myself, you know.
God used Jim
Carrey. Had a
Carrey.
good amount to do with it, you know. It was all happening around the same time, that stuff. Because I'm not smart enough to come to some intellectual religious decision. I don't know how people do that. I needed to be just clubbed on the head like a seal. Yeah.
So the Lord used Jim Carrey to run you out of the theater into the Passion.
Hey,
of the
you know
Christ.
what? I didn't think of it that way.
Well, we want to be respectful of your time. We've held you for a little over an hour now. I really want to hear more about your testimony, so I think we're going to have to bring you back on to tell that story and to talk a little bit about some of the work that you're doing with helping to promote mental health and helping parents work with kids that are struggling with different things. But at the end of our show, we always end our show with a segment called Controlled Rowdiness. So we're just going to ask you some rapid fire questions. I want you to come up with whatever comes to the top of your head, which I think is probably going to be my favorite segment we do with you so far. So Daly, I'm going to let you get things started here.
Okay. Aliens have arrived. This is the story. Aliens have arrived, and they give you the chance to tell a story or joke so funny that they won't destroy the Earth. What is it?
A guy's sitting home in his pajamas on a Sunday morning. He's reading the classified ads. He's got nothing to do. He's a single guy. He's just sitting in his pajamas. He doesn't go to church. He's looking at the classifieds, and he looks in the classifieds, and he goes, "Can I cuss on the show?" Say one dirty word.
Yeah, go for it.
One dirty word. And he's looking at the classifieds, and he sees talking dog for sale. He goes, "This is ridiculous." And it's in his neighborhood. He goes, "I wouldn't spend the money and do such a thing," but he's sort of interested. So he gets stressed. What the hell? I got nothing else to do. He goes to the address that's in the classified ad, the talking dog. He drives up to the house, normal house. He looks at it. He says, it'll be a story at least. I'll go knock on the door. I'll get out. So he gets out of the car. He knows it's ridiculous, but he gets out of the car and he walks up to the door and he knocks on the door. And the guy opens it. "Yeah, what? What?" He goes, "I feel silly, but do you have a talking dog for sale?" He goes, "Yeah, he's in the back." The guy goes, "Okay, I came this far. I might as well go." He goes around the side of the house, opens the gate, goes to the backyard, and there's this very old dog just kind of laying like this, on the grass. And he looks around so nobody hears him, and he might as well go all the way with it. He looks at the old dog and he goes, "Can you talk?" And the dog goes, "Yeah, I can talk." I can't believe he said, "How could you talk?" He's, "Where did you learn to talk?" He says, "Well, when I was younger, I did a lot of work for the government. And, they would drop me behind enemy lines and nobody knew I could talk. And I'd worked for the CIA and the OSS back in World War II. And I would go behind some dictator's palace and listen to stuff and then come back and report it. I was just a dog." And the guy can't believe it. And he runs out of the yard, back through the gate, pounds on the guy's door, the owner's door. The guy opens, "Yeah?" He goes, "He can really talk." He goes, "Yeah, he can talk." He says, "Well, how much do you want for him?" And the guy goes, "I don't know, give me $20. And the guy goes, $20 for a talking dog? Why so cheap?" And the guy goes, "Because he's a liar. He never did any of that."
Okay, crisis averted.
All right, I've saved the world.
You saved the world.
saved the world.
The aliens thought that was funny.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got a couple of either ors for you. If you are casting a starring role, right? You've got these guys coming in to audition. Do you take Chevy Chase or Steve Martin to be the star of your new comedy?
Well, I can't know what it's about.
It's whatever that you've
Whatever
written
I
it.
want.
Yeah, whatever it is that's in your mind.
Well, I've written for both.
Right.
And my Chevy's my pal, so I'd have to say Chevy.
You'd have to say Chevy.
Yeah.
What was
We're
it-
still very good friends.
What was it like writing for Steve?
Oh, well, it was like I shouldn't, he didn't need me. I've written for him a couple times. One was that I used to write all the Mark Twain Award shows.
Okay.
They give an award to funny people. Billy Murray was one, and
Tina Fey, I think, was another one you wrote for.
everybody.
Yeah.
Carol Burnett wrote, and I wrote on all those shows for David Letterman. I wrote for Dave when he did it because I know him through Paul, and but none of those kind of guys need any help. Steve Martin didn't need any help, but I just sat in his dressing room and listened to his stuff, and it'd be preposterous to propose. Steve's tight.
Yeah.
He goes on. He has a tight group. So anyway, so it's just nice to be able to say I kind of wrote for her. I would have written for her, but I would say Chevy, but I think I love Steve too, and I love Marty Short, who's a friend as well.
Yeah. Steve Martin and Marty Short have done a lot of stuff since Three Amigos.
Well, they're doing a movie. They just did a movie that's coming out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, about in New York. Yeah.
So if you had to choose between, so your supporting actor, so if Chevy Chase is your star, and your supporting actor, you've got to choose between Bill Murray and the late John Belushi. Who are you choosing to be the supporting actor?
Well, Bill Murray, I guess. I'll tell you a funny Belushi story if you want to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not turning that down.
Okay. I knew him from the radio hour.
Okay.
We're the exact same age.
Right.
And he was so nice to me because he listened to stuff I do on the radio hour with Chris Guest. And we had this show called Chuck, Fred, and Bubba. It was like a farm show, like a disc jockey's at a really remote farm in Jimmy Durante, Oklahoma, So John gave me a compliment once after that, and I thought, that's great. And he was always very nice. So one morning, I'm up early on a Saturday to go up to Carnegie Hall in New York because the Eastern philosopher Krishnamurti was giving a talk at Carnegie Hall. He was like a guru, And so I happened to be up. I don't know why John Belushi was up this early, but I run into him in the Village because he lived in the Village. And he said, "Hey, man, where are you going?" I said, "I'm going up to Carnegie Hall to see Krishnamurti." And John said to me, "Carnegie Hall, bad room."
Bad room.
That's it.
Right.
Like the Blues Brothers played. But I don't imagine just saying Carnegie Hall is a bad room.
Right.
Worst place ever. All right, so my last one in this either or is going to be a bit more open-ended. In this movie, so you got Chevy Chase, you got Bill Murray. Who are you bringing on as you get a choice of 3 writers to help you write the film? Who are the 3 that you pick?
To help me write?
Yeah, to
That
help
are
you
just
write.
writers, not celebrities.
Yeah. Who are your 3 writers that you pick to work with?
Well, there was a team in England that I worked with and the guy unfortunately one of these guys passed very young recently. I went over to his service over there in September, but his name is Bert Tyler Moore, and he took the name from Mary Tyler Moore. He was
Nice.
And he's a genius. And Harry Shearer.
Right.
Forget about it. We don't really need anybody else. Chris. I mean, the guy. Then there's people you wouldn't know. But there are some great guys from Cheers. There's funny and then there's funny.
Yeah.
You want someone who can get you your car early at night. You want someone in the room who can come up with that joke that's keeping you there until midnight, so you can get the heck out of there.
I like it.
That's a practical answer too. I
absolutely.
I think the same way.
Yeah.
Well,
What do you think is the funniest part of the Bible? I'll let you think about it, but I think of several prophets that did funny things or different
Elijah in particular, very
different scenes
sarcastic.
that play out that I think are very funny. I'm just curious what you think.
well, I know what the shortest sentence in the Bible is.
Oh yeah,
Jesus wept. Isn't that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
that was my favorite Bible verse because it always got me to the playground in time.
Before you were beaten to a pulp.
Yeah.
It's all so funny.
Yeah,
It's like
hilarious.
It's like saying who's your favorite kid,
Yeah.
I don't know, but I can tell you that if I had been alive then, and if I had seen the apostles and the miracles and stuff, I like to think I would have followed Jesus. But I always feel like I'm just kind of the second rung. I don't think I would have been at the table of the Last Supper. I probably would have been at the cousins' table. You know what I mean? At the Seder. I got to sit with the cousins. I'm not going to be with the real, So
Yeah, you'd get the scraps.
Yeah, you're at the table once removed.
There you go. That's pretty good.
yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. Maybe the loaves, because they're all, a lot of them were Jews out there. So they're going, that's it? One fish? One loaf? I could have brought schmaltz. I could have brought herring. I don't think that was intentionally.
So you said you kind of grew up into writing with Christopher Guest, who is not just famous for several of the interesting roles he's played, like the Six-Fingered Man we mentioned from The Princess Bride, but also very famous for his dry sense of humor and mockumentaries of different parts of subculture. Yeah. If you could partner with Christopher Guest and write a mockumentary on subculture, what area of subculture do you pick to write your mockumentary on?
Kind of movies Chris does. You mean like, that's a good one. I don't know, man. I think I'd just say, what do you want to do, Chris?
Just go with his idea.
Yeah, man. That's too much work. Depends how much money I was getting. If I was getting a lot, I'd come up with the idea.
All of it.
All of it.
You get all the money.
That's a really good question. It's hard to do a mockumentary these days because it's what's funnier than what's really going on.
That's a good point. Yeah, the satirists are saying that but that was one of my favorite G.K. Chesterton quotes from the early 1900s is that the world has become too absurd to satirize. And he wrote that, I think, in like 1912.
Yeah, it gets worse, G.K.
And here we are.
Pretty good. That's pretty good.
My last question. Have you ever been called Yummy by Leanne Morgan?
By who?
Leanne Morgan. The Southern, amazing, fabulous comedian.
I love that woman. I just discovered her.
Yeah.
She's great.
Oh, yeah.
So true or false? Have you ever been called Yummy by Leanne Morgan?
I'd love to meet her though. I think she's like Roseanne. She's the new Roseanne.
Yes.
I
Done.
think she's brilliant.
Done deal.
I think so.
Yeah, we certainly. I'll send that email tonight.
We are so close that she has called us Yummy.
She has. This is Danley's flex.
Yeah, I flex this muscle whenever I get the chance.
The last time anybody called me Yummy was the time I passed out in Greenwich Village on Tony night.
Oh, it's the yummy little silver daddy.
I don't know what that means, but anyway.
I think it's a compliment.
Yeah, Tom,
I think she's fantastic.
Yeah, she's awesome. Tom, you've been an absolute gem. Thanks so much for being on the show, man.
Semi-precious.
Yeah, he's. You know what? I would put him in our crown. He's one of our precious stones in our crown.
Thank you, man.
Beautiful clarity and refraction. Well done. I would make him a princess cut.
Yes, Tom, you have been a fabulous. We joked around with opening the show with the man who needs no introduction, but it would take too long. Thank you for all of the laughter over our whole lives.
Well, thank you guys. It's a privilege. Great to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
Hey, guys, let me know if you come to New York.
Okay.
You can buy me a lovely dinner.
Yes, we will.
Tom freaking Leopold.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was nervous about this, and we have been.
Oh man, I was too.
So I was nervous about this for a few reasons. One is because we had some scheduling issues early on, not just in finding time where we could get Tom on, but we would get a date, and then for some reason, whether it was us or him, something came up. We had to reschedule several times, and then as we're finally able to, we've hammered down a firm date. We've looking forward to it. We're doing our research into all the different things that he's done, which is just so much.
Yeah.
And the amount of incredible people that he's worked with. What we have learned thus far is that guys like Tom that have this, myriad of experience and just incredible connections and are these brilliant comedic minds that it's going to turn one way or the other. Either it's going to be a brilliant episode and a wonderful interaction, or it's going to be an absolute bust.
Yeah.
That there's no middle ground, especially with these guys that are comedy writers. Like the performers can kind of flip the switch and get on and go with it. And
Like you said, Steve Martin doesn't need my help.
Yeah.
Steve Martin is going to show up and he's going to kill.
But there are guys like Tom that we've talked to and that we've vetted out early. Like, this is just not going to work. And Tom was one that I think both of us just put a lot of hopes in, that we wanted this to be a really great episode. And man, did he deliver.
I always knew it was going to be good. You were the one that was doubtful. You were a doubting little Thomas over there.
First off, he's the Thomas. That's why he's called Tom. Second, you're a liar, which is why you're the reprobate. We literally had this conversation like this is going to go one of two ways.
Yeah.
And the way that it went, I couldn't have been happier, and especially to know that we've got to follow up with him.
But also,
talking about
I
some
could
of
have
the other
talked to
stuff.
him for 5 more hours.
No kidding. Just listening to his stories.
Yeah.
Right? He casually mentioned
And
Catherine
his-
O'Hara, who is the mom from Home Alone. She was in A Mighty Wind.
Most
She's from
Christopher
Schitt's
Guest
Creek.
movies.
Yeah. She's in...
David! That's what a line she says from Schitt's Creek. She says, Alexis. That's not a bad impression, okay? You're giving me the look, but it's not bad.
She was also in This
Kyler,
is,
how-
this is
huh?
Spinal Tap. So thanks for watching the Reverend and the No, that's so but to casually throw out somebody who's an icon in comedy that is a friend of his, a writing partner, Chevy Chase.
He's working on some things that he was a little cryptic about.
Which I thought was
bringing
really
a
interesting.
new show.
We
They're
would have
gonna be writing-
asked, like, where can you find Tom
He's
Leopold?
not gonna tell
but
us.
he doesn't have any interest in being found. It's like, we were talking to him in the pre-show, and he's like, I think everybody who wants to know me is already in my friends. So, unless somebody wants to see pictures of his dogs. And he's like, well, so we didn't, he's not worried about getting follows or anything like that. He's just worried about putting out great
He just
content.
wants. I think he's actually a lot like us. He just wants to do fun things.
Yeah.
He just wants to have fun with his
thought it
buddies, which
was
in this case is Christopher
impossible.
Guest and Paul Schaefer and Chevy Chase.
Oh, I
and
thought you were
Bill
talking about
Murray.
in our case.
Having fun with our friends.
Yeah, it's impossible.
Why?
So, you ever try to like hang out with your boss?
Oh, okay.
Since you're trying to manage me all the time.
Yeah.
So what I'm really fascinated by is that he thought Cheers was that he said Cheers was his favorite thing that he worked on.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's so bizarre because it was one season, whereas everything else he had like these long.
It was a long time ago. Then he's had
Yeah.
a very healthy career since.
Yep, but that was his.
I mean, the way he was
his
describing
favorite.
it sounds like it was, it was the writer's room, staying up late at night with all the funniest people in the world. Like I can see
making
that.
fun of Moesha.
Yeah, I can see that being really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're writing, competing with the Moesha team, and then you're ending up leaving first.
Yep.
Surprisingly.
And that
Because
group-
Moesha, not known for the best writing in the world, I
No.
think is to spell the joke out.
Do you remember what was it?
No.
It was on UPN. That was the
Yeah,
name
I
of the
remember
network.
it being a thing, and that's it.
The circle, the triangle, and the square. That was their little thing that was in the corner. Yep, Moesha.
It was on Channel 21.
Yeah, and man, who else?
Kids these days have Kyler. You have no concept of that. You're like, oh, there's 500 shows. What are you talking about?
Kyler,
500 channels.
Colton's lovely wife.
Oh, yeah,
is
she's in the
here.
studio
Yeah,
for
she's
those
in here
who can't
tonight
see.
taking some pictures of Danley for his yearbook, and for his
For my portfolio.
Yeah, his 10th year reunion of homeschool prom.
Yeah.
this is going in there. He's just wearing his old tuxedo T-shirt.
Oh, man.
just like Cal Naughton Jr. requested.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Tom was brilliant. He's a ton of fun.
And it sounds like part one of hopefully many more.
Yeah, and I'm really fascinated by some of the stories that he didn't tell, and then by getting to dive a little bit deeper into, just the stuff that happens kind of between gigs. But he said he's always been, since about 17, he's always been working, and the guys that he knows, the guys that he works with and hangs out with, they're legends.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's not anybody.
We didn't
that
even
he-
talk about Harry Shearer, being a prolific writer,
Right.
and actor. We didn't even get to the voice acting that he does, because
Right.
he does so many voices on The Simpsons, among other things. His buddies are all legends.
And it's one of those. So when we get to the end of the interview, to kind of peel back the curtain a little bit on what we do, we always ask our guests, like, who do you think would be a fun guest for us to have on?
Oh,
and
man.
in the back of my mind, I'm like, you could name
please say.
anybody.
Yeah, please say.
You could literally name
Please give
anybody.
us Letterman,
Right?
or
Yeah, like
Schaefer Shearer,
any of those folks.
O'Hara.
And I think that is one of the
O'Hare.
coolest things about a guy like Tom, is because he's very not just self-effacing, but in the interview even says, you know what, I don't mean to name drop or whatever. It's like, you are, for us, that's a name drop that we got to hang out with Tom Leopold. But all
and
of these
also,
other
I
people,
name dropped Leanne Morgan, asking
Morgan,
if she's been
unbelievable.
called Yummy. I think that is a prestigious title and is difficult to come by. She's named her kids Yummy. She named the lead singer of Journey Yummy, and us.
He's not the real lead singer of Journey.
No, yeah, that's true. I was thinking she did say, she mentions that Steve Perry is really the yummiest, which I agree.
Agreed.
All right, well, hey, that was a great show. You got anything else you wanted to say?
No, thanks for watching. Next week we have on somebody.
Yeah.
Somebody's definitely coming on next week.
And they're going to be good.
And if they're not, we'll always wish they would have been.
But to take a line from Dusty Slade, go ahead and hit that like button. You can always unclick it if you don't like it, but go ahead and hit the like button now. Now that we're at the end of the episode, I guess I did the wrong time, but hit the like button, subscribe, share it, please, and we'll talk to y'all later, because we are having a good time.
Hi, my name is Tom Leopold. I don't usually do this kind of stuff, but I met the Reverend and the Reprobate. Forget about me, but in prison. Okay, and I'm not ashamed of that. I did what I had to do, and I live with that. Anyway, one of them was I'm not going to say which one, but I think you'll know. It was I don't want to say, but someone I cared about deeply. Anyway, I can't watch the show because it brings back a lot of painful memories. And when I say painful memories, I think you know what part of my body I'm focusing on. Anyway, there's a lot of good stuff out there. You don't have to listen to these guys. I'll tell you what, though, if you don't have one of those boxes that sound like the ocean and you really need to get to sleep, I'd put them on. I'll give them that. Tom Leopold, out.